James, before we start the show formally, I just want to make sure you have enough time allocated. Cut out early, anything?
Well, I already checked with Hunter, and
Okay.
he said 8:30, or else we're no good.
Or else we're out. So we got a hard out at
boy.
8:30.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
Ted, keep the time for me. Okay.
We have 43 minutes.
Hello and welcome to the Thesideescape Gaming Podcast, episode 151. I'm your host Jake Burke, and I'm joined as always by James St. Charles, Ted, Libby. And this week we have something special. We're gonna talk about cars. We're talking about racing. We're gonna talk about Fast X, right? Oh no, different. I did watch Fast X.
Different thing, yeah.
We have
That's
Gunnar Gualco with us. He was our racing Forza expert. How are you?
Our resident.
I try.
You're here
Resident
only for
expert.
Forza.
expert.
Have you been on any other show that's not racing related with us?
There is one, and I forgot what it was.
We talked about Valorant.
That's what
Yes,
it was. He was on the
Valorant.
Valorant cast. That's what it was. Or James said
Wow, that
I will
was
not be on that show.
That was a while ago.
I did play Valorant.
You didn't like
So I
that.
would be on that show.
You
Still
adamantly
hasn't.
hated
Still
that.
hasn't. Yeah.
Well, now
And,
James,
hey,
like that's
hey, how many
none
of you are
us
still
play.
playing? Yeah, how many of you are still playing Valorant?
I play Valorant as much as I play Overwatch. You know.
Same here.
Hey, did you hear the Overwatch League is dead?
Yeah,
That's dead.
Yeah. I could've told
surprisingly,
you that.
franchising teams in US that were not US teams.
Tough.
You know, surprisingly that doesn't work.
Tough thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just kind of shocked. Wow.
Yeah.
They really had some momentum there, and then they just killed it with releasing a sequel.
Yeah, I think the sequel killed the game.
Thanks.
You heard it here first.
Here, you heard it here first.
Hot take. Yeah.
But enough about Overwatch 2, because this is the Thesideescape Gaming Podcast. Once a week, we disc over 500 miles to talk about a gaming-related topic and what games we are playing. This week, we are, of course, talking about Forza Motorsport, Alan Wake 2, and Spider-Man 2. We're going to talk about some video games that are out right now. James, playing Alan Wake 2.
Yes.
Somewhat. Fill me in.
Yep.
What do you think? Give me the skinny on the bebop, as the kids say.
Yeah, so the skinny on the bebop, as I was talking with Ted and Gunnar
Mhm.
before the podcast, because they wanted to know about Alan Wake, and Ted brought up Control, which is interesting that he brought that up, because I haven't gotten to that point where it does get control-y, if that
Okay.
makes sense. There is a critical point in this game that everyone like gives it the high 10 out of 10 rating. Haven't gotten there yet. So how this game starts out is very cinematic. Like, it's deep story. It's basically murder mystery, right up my alley. Like, I like Judgment, which is the Yakuza sort of like murder mystery type game. This is Yakuza like times 10. So you have like your Mind Palace. I think it's called the Mind Palace.
Wild.
I hope
it-
it's called the Mind Palace.
Your person that you're playing at, it's not Alan Wake. Surprise.
You play as
It's
two
not Alan Wake.
characters, right?
I haven't gotten to the second
Oh.
character, but you do play as not Alan Wake. I'm guessing you
I believe you
Spoiler
do
else.
also, spoilers, play as Alan Wake in this game.
probably
Yeah.
because he is talking in my head like every single scene. But so you play as this woman. Sorry, you play as this woman.
Play as this
You play-
women. Ugh.
You play as this mother, basically. She's an FBI agent, and you're investigating a murder in this town, of course, that Alan Wake was originally in. And you kind of have this ability that I guess Alan Wake had. I haven't played the first one, so I'm assuming it's the exact same ability, where she can like just go to her head and like piece together like how something happened. Yeah, how a murder connects. So like her partner's like, "Wow, you're really good. Wow, you're really good." Like, it's like, yeah, she's like cheating just by looking at a clue and figuring out like what happened. But there's this critical point in the game where you're just going about your job, and then everything just like flips on its head. You start reading this piece of paper, and the events of the paper, it's what Alan Wake wrote, start happening. So like creatures appear, like things that like don't make sense. People disappear, people appear, and at that point, it's like the game kind of like goes to that level. It first starts out really slow, and then it starts kicking into overdrive. Third person, so Jake, right up your alley.
Yep.
Get to shoot. So I don't know if you got to shoot guns in the Alan Wake.
Guns?
Maybe you did.
I know you have a flashlight for sure. I know you
Flashlight
have a
for sure.
flashlight
Light
for sure.
is so important in this game, and you have like
still
Alan
in,
Wake
in
sort
Alan
of
Wake 2. Light is still.
yeah. Light is so important. You have these like jump scares. I don't know why, but they're like Alan Wake jump scares. Like he'll just like appear and be like talking to you.
My main question about this game is like, how spooky is it? How scared?
I think you
am
can
gonna
handle it if you're like it's like a little bit above Resident Evil 2.
Okay.
But
above in that it's more or less.
it is more scary. There's more
Oh,
dark
wow.
and scary parts, and you have to like. But it has that same feel. I think it being the third person and not first person. I'm not really sold, Jake, yet. If you should play it, because I was telling Gutter Ted, like, I think I need more time with this game to like get. I don't want to develop an opinion right now where I'm at.
Do you
but,
feel like
it's good?
Like lost because you didn't play Alan Wake 1? Like, do you feel
No,
like you're missing something at all?
That's a good question because, what I think is this game kind of assumes you didn't play Alan Wake 1 because it's really like it keeps reminding you of the events that happened. Like it keeps telling you about like, hey, there was this guy who was here. Yeah, he wrote this book. Yeah, he did all these things.
Yeah.
So it's like it's kind of like telling you what happened in 1. So I think 2 is fine to just play without playing 1.
Because Alan Wake 1 came out.
That's just my assumption. I don't know if that's actually true.
So 13 years ago, Alan Wake came out.
Yeah.
So
I think you can start with 2 because so far I'm not like lost. I know of Alan Wake and I know of what he's done, but if someone just completely didn't know Alan Wake, maybe they'd be lost. But I understand the gist of the game, so yeah. But it's good. It's beautiful. It looks good. It has this really like cinematic and storytelling view. So
how control-y is it? Is it anything like Control?
No, it's not too. I mean, there's powers and shooting and like it's not like just like Control, but I'd say like visually, maybe there's some Control aspects, especially with like the creatures and like things appearing, disappearing. Yeah, or way the way a scene could be laid out. Yeah, there's some interesting Control aspects to it, but I haven't gotten to the part where there's like a tie-in. Like there's definitely I heard about this like a spoiler a part where it just like turns the game on its head, and people were really amazed by it that they did this. So
interesting.
I think that's why you're seeing it. Of course, Game of the Year nominations came out. It's on there.
Yeah. The Game Awards came out.
Yeah, so I'm thinking once I do beat it, maybe Jake, you do pick this up. I don't know if it's not scary enough yet where I think like you can't handle it, but I haven't gotten to like the end parts and
yeah, it's a game I definitely want to try. Like I think it's a game.
Yeah.
What about you guys? Ed?
I'm totally intimidated by it because I never played Alan Wake 1. I loved Control. I really did like Control. I was telling James before the show started. There is a Control DLC that ties in to Alan Wake, and I put the controller down because I was so lost and confused. Because I had no idea who Alan Wake was, and I know that there's such a deep love of Remedy games and their twisting, interconnected plot lines that don't make any sense until you just think about it for a second, man. So I don't know. I'm really curious what this twist is because Remedy is the kind of developer where the twist is like, you're in Alan Wake, but also Max Payne is here.
Right. It's all one universe.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if the bonkers twist is going to affect me in the same way it'll affect a Remedy head. So I'm pretty intimidated by it.
Is that what they're called?
Remedy head.
They're called Remedy heads?
No, but I'm gonna start calling them Remedy heads. That's
what we're starting now. If you like Remedy games, you're a Remedy head.
Yeah.
Gunnar, you have any interest in Alan Wake 2?
Well, besides 5 minutes ago when I looked up what Alan Wake was, I mean, the thing is, like, it's one of those games like Horizon Zero Dawn. It's like one of the big titles. Like, you know what Alan Wake is. I know what Alan Wake is, even though I've never like played it in my life. Would I play it? Yeah. Would I buy it full price? Probably not. So, I think it would be cool to try. Like, just based on what James has said, like it sounds like a really interesting story, and James knows I'm a sucker for a really good story. So
I think it's a good story. Yeah, I'm surprised how there is like a lot of substance to this. I wasn't thinking there was, but the murders are interesting. The storytelling and solving them are interesting.
Yeah.
It doesn't hold your hand too much. Like, oh, look at this. I was like, I could just like go wherever I want. Like, just find whatever I think. It's like, no, you need to go over here. I got lost. That was great. I like that I could just get lost and like figure out like where I'm at and not something like waypoint flashing that I need to go over here. So it's great.
James, did you ever play a game called Return of the Obra Dinn? indie
I've
game
heard of it.
from like
I,
5 years
I
ago?
didn't. Yeah, I heard of it, but I haven't played it yet.
Okay, that's fine. The kicker with that is of that murder mystery is that the game doesn't end until you press a button that says like I would like to solve the case now, and then you do your best to put the evidence together and solve the case, and then it says like
That's very cool.
you did it or you didn't. Game ends. Do you know if Alan Wake is going to have that kind of like you put the pieces together, or is it still just like a narrative story throughout?
It's very narrative. Yeah, but also the way you put the pieces, you have to find the pieces, and then
Right.
you have to you have this like the mind palace, and you have this board where you're like laying it out like some some psychopath,
Yeah.
like
Okay, so you have the conspiracy
Pepe
theory board.
Sylvia, like with
Yeah.
like board like pictures everywhere, and then like
lines going from
string,
here
yeah,
to there.
yeah. So you have
He's
to know
not
exactly
FBI
where to
agent,
put
a
it.
psychopath.
No, I'm with him.
It's
Yeah, that
she's
makes sense.
putting this together in her head, so it's like
True psychopath.
not even physical. It's like in her head that she's putting together these pictures. Like how does things light up? And yeah. So if you don't put it in the right place, like I guess you can't solve things. But pretty much, it's like I'm in this area and it snaps in, and yeah. So it's not like hard. But I think it's very much that part is kind of on rails. The getting to that part is a little bit tricky, like figuring out, like thinking about things, and the narration too of Alan Wake, and it's nice. I there was this moment in the very beginning of the game. It's a slight spoiler, where this lady recognizes you, and she's like, "Oh, hey again," and she's like, I don't know who you are." Like she's like, "What are you talking about? We what this like we did all these things together." She's like, "No, we never did that." She's like, "How's your daughter?" I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry about your daughter." Like she was like, "What are you talking about?" So there's this little like foreshadowing of like something that happened,
Oh, that's interesting.
but this FBI agent doesn't know anything like that. This woman, and so the woman was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll leave you alone."
There's like a bigger
But
mystery
I was
to
like,
it.
"Yeah, there's like a mystery." It's like because it's like the first time she's been in this town supposedly, and then people are like recognizing her. Weird.
Fair
but
enough. I'm
yeah,
gonna play it.
It's cool. I think you should play it. Yeah, there's a lot of cool little like interactions where it's just like, why did this happen?
I'm like deep into Baldur's Gate, but I think
I think you should, yeah. So what's funny is after I'm playing this game, I think I need to go back to Tears of the Kingdom.
yes, you do, James. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
That game's real good.
But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I didn't say too much, spoil too much,
Yeah.
because I think it's so story heavy and like story driven that once I do beat it, it's gonna be hard to like review for everyone because I don't want to spoil. I think it's
Seems
pretty
very
good.
narrative.
Yeah,
I'm excited
But
to play it.
gameplay wise, great. Gameplay is clean. Like nice third person, go around, shoot a little bit. Fun.
Good. Me
Yep.
too.
Way too. It got high scores.
Gotta get.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it out to you guys, the Xbox kids, Forza kids. I think that's what we're gonna go. We're going Forza in the middle. Making Gunner just start this off right now.
Jake, can you say Forza in your most Italian accent?
Forza.
Okay, thank
We
you.
got the
I
Forza
love it.
Motorsport. A lot of Mario games coming out, and
Yeah, I mean
Yeah.
it's essentially Mario but on the Xbox. So
wow, that's Forza's review. Essentially Mario.
It's
but on
Mario
Xbox.
Kart on the Xbox.
yeah.
Gunner, this
Oh,
is
boy.
Forza Motorsport. Yes, that's the title.
Yep.
Yes.
This is the 2023 variant of. What is it? Tell me a little brief thing about what Forza Motorsport is opposed to Horizon. Then what do you think about this variation of Forza? Because you're the Forza guy. You do the
Okay.
dailies. You're that guy.
I used to. As you know, I uninstalled Horizon 5.
I know. It was a big deal in our friendship.
So I guess there is something I wanted to bring up. The original Forza Motorsport came out in 2005. And if you wanted to race like sim style, like not like Mario Kart, there's only one game, two games basically, and that was Gran Turismo 3 and 4. And Jake, you never had a PlayStation 2.
I play 4. I love 4.
The number 2 and number 3 top selling games on PlayStation 2 are Gran Turismo 3 and Gran Turismo 4.
You know what?
So in
What's number one? What's
2005
number one? Just curious.
I think it was Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but I'll have to
Okay,
look.
that makes
It was good. That was a good game. So like Microsoft
Also a
putting
driving
out
game.
this game in 2005, that was a huge deal. And and now here we are. It's one of their biggest IPs, like 8 Forza Motorsports later. And it's great. I started on Forza Motorsport 2. I also played Forza Motorsport 3, but you said we're Xbox kids, but I never had an Xbox One. So there's like this whole gap of Forza
Did you not have
Motorsports
the
I
original
never actually played.
Xbox or an Xbox One?
Both, actually. I didn't have either. I
He had a
only had a
360,
360,
and that's all that
which
matters.
which is all that matters, really,
Yeah.
I think. So yeah, but then I had my PC, so I played Horizon, and I got bored of Horizon 5, and I installed it. So that's where we are today. Um,
Which, and
But
like
yeah, I have
for
been playing.
context, though, was like the other Forza Horizon that came out 4 years before.
Yeah.
You played till basically the
Essentially, yes.
Yeah, like you did
I
every
played a
daily
lot of it.
quest, and
Yeah.
there was a regression in the next.
There was a battle royale mode, right? That you played in it.
Oh god, it was bad.
It was hilarious.
People still play it, and they put it in that. Jake mentioned the weekly challenges. They would put it in the weekly challenges, like play a game, and it's like, oh god. So it was fine. I know some people liked it. It was the battle royale era, so that's what people were into.
So now we're here
But
at Forza Forza Motorsport, new one.
yes,
Yeah.
and I would say just a one sentence review. It's definitely like the big departure from Horizon. Horizon is like, I think we played it a little bit. Like you get your cars. You had a DeLorean with 1,700 horsepower. Like you do whatever you want. You could drive it up a cliff in Mexico.
Right. For people who don't know, Forza Horizon is the more arcadey, easier to play,
Yes,
more kind of fun, goofy racing game.
much more forgiving.
Still using brand name cars, but like you said, you're doing silly challenges and driving on Hot Wheels tracks and stuff like that.
Right. It's a good game in its own right, if that's what you want. But I wanted something a little bit more driven. And I was telling Jake about this like last week. This game is for the people who want to play iRacing, which is a huge subsect of people who play games. It's like a very hardcore. Like most people have the wheel,
Yeah.
and like
iRacing
you log on.
having nothing to do with Apple products.
Yeah. So
Yes,
can you explain what
nothing to do-
iRacing is a little bit? Because you guys started
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about this the other day, and I had no idea what the fuck
Yeah.
I went with.
So
Yes, no-
iRacing is
Gotta go ahead.
actually very old. Not very old, but it's pretty old. If you play the game, it looks dated, but it's essentially it would be like the FIFA guy that we all know, but they like racing games, and that's the game that they would play. And so generally, people who play iRacing, like it's $15 a month, by the way, to play iRacing. Most people have a wheel. Some people even have like the car seat set up with like the screens
Pedals
that go
and
like
shit.
that. Like really hardcore, like racing sim people will do it. And Forza Motorsport, the new one, definitely took like several pages out of that book, and I think it was to their favor. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what iRacing is. I hope that answers
Yeah.
Yeah.
your question.
I'll add on iRacing is very heavy on like racing etiquette
Mhm.
and like
Yes.
racing properly. So like, crashing or like bumping other cars, things like that will get you banned. You are meant to treat it like you are driving a real racing game. And over the years, you've heard many stories in iRacing of like actual NASCAR drivers will race in iRacing to practice in the off season, and will meet and hire their crew chiefs and strategists off of iRacing
That's
because
absurd. Wait, what? That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah,
yes, what's his name? Kyle Busch hired
Kyle
his
Busch. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, he
Yeah.
hired his crew chief, his guy in the chair because you can be a guy in the chair in iRacing and just make calls to real racers driving around a virtual track.
Lot of famous F1, Formula One racers do race on iRacing. Like that's what
Yeah.
they. I think it picked up really heavily in the pandemic. Like
Yep.
that's what they were
Yeah.
racing on.
Yeah,
Huh.
iRacing is for people who are there for like specifically motorsport.
Right.
And I we'll get into it here in a second, but
Yeah.
I think Forza is very much going after that of like leaving behind the arcade, the fun, quote unquote, and trying to be hardcore.
Well, and that's the big difference in this game is like that it has this driver rating so that you are like how you drive and if you don't crash into people rating basically.
Exactly. There's very similar to iRacing. Anyone would know. There's two kinds of different ratings. There's a safety rating, so it basically judges how much you run into people, and it's S, A, B, C, D, and I think E or F. And so F is obviously bad, and S is fantastic. And then there's a skill rating, which is like how well you do the tracks. Like, do you spin out? Do you get into a lot of collisions, stuff like that. So I played. Ted mentioned he did about 2.5 hours. I played with Ted as well. We got him his very own safety rating and skill rating.
Hey, what's the safety rating? What are we at?
I'm an S safety rating.
Heck yeah,
Best of the
that's all
best.
we need to
Yep.
know.
Yep.
Really? Okay.
Yep.
What's your racing rating?
James, when you're in 10th place, you don't meet a lot of other cars.
It's hard to
So-
crash into people in 10 when you're so far behind.
Exactly. Yeah.
What's the driver rating, Ted? Like a 12?
Like I think I'm at 1,200 out of 5,000, but I mean Gunnar over here is at 4,900, so that's the difference in skill.
I hit after Ted and I did our last race. I hit 49-41 out of 5,000.
Jesus.
But yeah, to kind of expand on our experience, past Forza Motorsports and past we all played COD 4, COD 5. Like you hit like I want to play online, and you hit the go button, and it puts you in a lobby, and you just go to the next race. But very similar to we're going back to iRacing a lot, but very similar. They essentially almost have event times. So it'll be like at 6:30 p.m. like this race will start, and you can enter like 20 minutes early to 30 minutes early and like do practice runs and qualifying, like kind of like a track day.
Is that like cool, or is that stupid that you have to wait 20 minutes for?
I think
Watching
it's
you guys
both.
do it the other day, I was like, this sucks. You have 10 minutes. Stupid. So I'm curious
think
from a
it's
racing
cool
guy.
in both.
Okay.
I think some practice sessions are just too much. Like I love driving. I really do. But like I don't think I need to practice for 30 minutes. And I think anybody who plays any multiplayer online game, they're there for the thrill, Like you can drive around the track by yourself in the single player mode, which is horrendous in this game. But I mean, everyone is there online for the online thrill. Like only Jake saw me winning that race by like 1,000th of a second.
Gunnar
Yeah, you were talking about this.
literally won by the nose of his car. I felt like the guy in the chair. If you ever go into professional racing, I'm your guy in the chair because I encouraged you through this entire race. I kept you level-headed. Kept telling you just race your race. This guy's making mistakes, and you fucking won. But man, it was intense. Man, it was fun to watch. Bystander watching. Most fun I've ever had watching.
Mhm.
I take that as a compliment.
It was very but also because you're really good, so it's like it's really enjoyable to watch someone very good at a racing game race. Be a little different watching Liv back,
Yeah,
So there's a single player and a multiplayer component in this game,
sure.
but really there's just a multiplayer component, and the single player is like secondary shit.
I would say so, yeah. Ted saw it himself too, but
Yeah.
The single player is not the shining, redeeming factor of this game.
Yeah.
Like Forza Motorsport 2, Forza Motorsport 3, all the other ones, the single player was like pretty fleshed out. It's pretty cool. In this game, the single player seems really boring, for lack of a better word. It's really dull. Like I started playing through it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna do single player because that's what I would do in a Forza Motorsport, and I was like, wow, this is just really unfulfilling and not that entertaining. And maybe other people will have different thoughts on that, but
Right. And
I had no interest.
we'll talk a little bit about this when we come back to multiplayer, but single player, after your initial tutorial and your initial kind of fun race, it is just they categorize a whole bunch of different types of racing, muscle car racing, expensive car racing, that kind of stuff. And then you just go through each one, and it's kind of like a bot battle, if you ever remember those. You're just racing the same race, you're doing the same practice, qualifying, and then you race. There's just drivatars. There's AIs controlling it instead of real people.
Well, that makes
And
sense. Yeah.
it definitely feels like it is just preparing you for the multiplayer.
Right.
There isn't a personal career. There isn't any kind of narrative or story. I went into this really hoping, like Forza Motorsport, I was really hoping was going to be this like stepping stone into simulation racing. So I was ready for a really in-depth tutorial or some kind of like, if you want to know how to actually race, like we have the tools for you. It doesn't seem to have any of that. It is just like get out there and have some fun before you do multiplayer. There is not like a, you know, learn how to overtake.
Yeah,
or
turn competition
right.
or something.
Yeah, exactly
Yeah.
like that. Or like learn specifically how tire pressure works, or like all those little like racing sim things that I hear Gunnar talking about. Didn't have any of that like learning aspect.
So like
to
the
it. It
game
was
doesn't teach you how to tune up your car, for instance.
Outside of a little, like you click the tune up icon and it says like
Here's how to
tuning your
help.
car can yeah, exactly. Turning your car can make it a little bit faster. Mess with the options to try it out. Outside of that, it was not super helpful as to like what to do.
Yeah, even somebody who plays a lot, the tuning is not super helpful. They have like the blurbs on the side, like when they're on the tire pressure menu, it's like increasing does this and decreasing does this, but it's so ambiguous that it just doesn't really matter. So that's I don't think it really does that really well. If somebody like really wants to like get into it and has like an interest in it, I think this game is definitely for people who already have an interest in the game. Which is interesting because as Ted and I talked about before, there are some things about the game that are really not tailored to that.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
let's get into it because Gunnar and I had two major gripes, I think, when it comes to this live service multiplayer experience. Right, this is Forza Motorsport. No title, no number afterwards.
No,
Like this is
this
their
is it.
game moving.
Yeah,
This is
all
their
in.
game moving forward. I'll let Gunnar explain the leveling system, but one thing that I kind of was a little annoyed by is there's the multiplayer is this live service, right? The race starts at 6:30 p.m. You have to qualify before 6:30, and each racing category changes week to week. So, like this week, they have like supercars. So me, who just bought a 1988 NASCAR, can't use it.
Screwed, yeah.
Not yeah, it doesn't use it. So you're given, a free consumer car, you're given a free race car, and obviously a Porsche is in your inventory. But yeah, obviously it's a Forza game. But like so the multiplayer is going to have this live service aspect where like this week is NASCAR week, and if you don't want to race around in circles driving a NASCAR, you're kind of SOL. I think there's like 8, maybe 7 options to pick from. So there is some variety,
Yeah.
generally speaking. But like I don't own all of those cars, and I definitely don't have those cars leveled up. So for me, buying my first car and then realizing it's kind of worthless for this week in multiplayer, was a really weird
A
bummer.
big letdown. That's a big letdown for.
Yeah, to Gunner's initial point about like, just clicking deathmatch and then clicking find game and then you're there. It doesn't have that. It's very structured and very specific. Again, to kind of this hardcore audience, but also it was kind of, I don't know, you don't really feel invited to play
yeah,
when the very first thing is like, you don't have a car for this, so just use our stock car.
Yeah.
Ted, what does it mean for leveling up a car? Is that like similar to like
I'll let Gunner
Rumble?
explain. I'll let Gunner explain this because I don't really understand it.
so I had the perfect analogy for this.
So James, it's so your car can get new attacks. So like level 10.
I'm just wondering if it's like
gonna get
Warcraft
tail whip.
Rumble where I buy gold and then my unit becomes a higher level, so
Yeah,
it deals more damage. Is that the
That's
same thing? Your car
almost
goes faster.
essentially what it is. Like
Yeah.
so we'll use the
Boy.
Monte Carlo that Ted bought to start out with. It's $11,000 and it's a E-class car.
So
And
it's slow. It's
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 pretty
badly
slow.
Doesn't
loaded.
sound good. Doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
The classes go all the way to A and then past A into S and R and like all that. So Ted's Monte Carlo has a long way to go. And you can, like in all the Forzas, you could like upgrade them to whatever you want, and you could just put anything in it. But the upgrade system is essentially like kind of a little bit sort of old school, like leveling up your guns in COD. So like you'd buy the base gun, and you have to sit there and use it with iron sights, and until you get the red dot, like the first thing, and then maybe you get a magazine later. It's very much like that. And so Ted bought this Monte Carlo, and this week's challenge for online was B class. So he would have to essentially upgrade the car from E through D, C, and B
To play in this week's like
to
live
play in
event.
that week's challenge,
Jeez.
which you can't do because
Yeah.
the upgrades are tied to that level. So you can't just be like, I want a supercharger, spend like $20,000. That is no longer an option. You now have to straight up drive the car for a long time, and they give you car levels, which then gives you upgrade points, which is horrendously stupid in my opinion. It is
feels
horrible.
weirdly gated to be driving like a level 1 car, and mind you, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, yeah.
And then to be told like, you're going to need like a level 36 car to participate, and you're like, I don't even know. You know,
You can use
again,
a base car that we just have for you.
yeah, or you could rent a car with your in-game currency. But you know, to his point of the Call of Duty, like you have to drive the car a lot to then use it, which is
And you could drive it at any time. Like anything you do, like you could test drive the car, and it will level it up. And so actually it's right here. So the first week of gaming, they didn't patch this yet. What you could do is just because if you set the assists all the way to the max, it will basically drive the car for you. And so I literally have a rubber band, and I would just set the game to do like 40 laps. And I would just set the rubber band and put it on my controller and just have it drive for me. Just to level up that car so I could actually freaking upgrade it.
That's so
Because
dumb.
nobody has that kind of time. I had to drive it probably like maybe 2 to 3 hours
Oh.
just to get
in-game racing.
Okay,
In-game time.
so I
Yeah.
have some questions about this system because
Sure.
this
Oh,
game is
yeah.
a Game Pass game. This is an Xbox Game Pass game. Xbox business models right now are so interesting. Is there an online currency that you can buy for real money that boosts your car?
no.
They're a gearhead.
Oh, good.
No, there isn't. So only
not-
when
No,
we're
there is
driving.
not.
Not yet in the first 2 weeks of release.
Makes
Not
me happy
yet.
because
That
that seems
does
like a
make me happy.
system.
That's what I thought that there was.
I was like, oh,
But the way you were speaking sounded like, oh, but if you buy this pass,
yeah.
then you get your
you pay
this
$20, you get an S-class car right now.
Right.
Not
fully
yet,
leveled up.
but I would say that this system is primed and ready for something like that. Just the fact that you're pretty much a
Seems
lot of
like
the
it
cars
is.
you're buying, and the fact that like the races you can participate in are rotating, just makes it feel like it is ready to have like we've obfuscated this progression system. Would you like to speed it up?
I mean,
Um,
I don't think that they'd have. Maybe they do have that, but I could foresee like DLC, car DLC you buy.
They do have that. A lot of Forzas
wait.
have had
You
that.
can buy cars with real money. So you can buy S-class cars with real money.
Technically, no. It's more like they'll be like if you wanted they'll constantly like Horizon release new cars.
Sure.
And it's just, as they get the licenses, as they scan them and do that kind of stuff. If you wanted so maybe next week they'll release the 2016 Mazda 3 that James drives.
Love it.
But if you have the car pass, they'll release the 2018 RAV4. And
I
you
drive.
could have that. And so it doesn't give you a leg up because Ted saw this. There's like plenty of cars. You're never gonna like be like, oh, I don't have like enough selection.
there is a pretty awesome selection of cars. I will
Forza's
say
got
that.
no problem with the car brands.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they're
Exactly.
good there.
And
They're owned by
the
Microsoft. They're
pass
good.
itself, yeah, they're honestly just reusing a lot of models. Like,
Yeah.
it is what it is. But there's no like edge up that anybody's getting from getting a DLC car.
Okay, so money doesn't help you.
No.
Not at all. It would get you
Not-
a cool car.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
about it.
What are
You
your
need skill, Jake.
You need skill. You need to be Gunner on these tracks.
Gunner's winning out there with my Mazda 3.
Gunner's out there. James, to watch him play a racing game.
Oh,
Gotta
I
just be honest,
know.
It was wild.
I've seen him.
So cool to watch. And I just felt so bad that Ted was in this race and couldn't watch how cool this thing was going. Ted was in the back just going, I hope it don't crash. And Gunner's having the race in his life.
We would like
Yeah,
to
so-
mention that the replay system is currently broken.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Right. That's
Gunner
why, yeah,
tried
I
to
couldn't see
save
the photo
replay.
finish one.
Yeah, Gunner tried to save the replay and it broke. James.
Sorry. I did have a quick question. How are you playing this game? Are you playing with controller? Are you playing with a wheel?
I am playing with. I lost it. The control. I'm playing with the controller.
He's
You
playing
can't
with
play
two
with wheel.
Joy-Cons.
They have significant wheel support. So like pretty much
as
any
you would
wheel that you
expect.
have,
Yep.
it works.
are you
And
playing
that
with the
also
wheel?
works in Horizon.
Ted's playing with the Street Fighter 4 fighting stick.
What?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I am
What
just
happened-
playing with the standard controller.
What happened to
I
your
don't have a racing wheel.
fighter jet seat?
It doesn't. My
Come
fighter
on,
jet- I
Ted.
still have it. I didn't think to play Forza with it, but I still have it.
That'd be so badass, though. You're
That would
playing
be
Forza
freaking
like you're
sick,
flying
just
a plane.
That would be pretty cool.
This guy's all over the road.
He's crazy.
He's on me.
He's crazy.
He's on my
All
tip.
right, I'm back in. I'm back in.
He's on
Actually,
my
this is a
six.
pretty great idea.
Give me cover fire. Ted and Gunnar, what are your final wrap up thoughts about any Forza Motorsports? Final thoughts. I want to ask Gunnar a follow up question at the end.
Okay, yeah, and I'll let Gunnar go last because he's the Forza person. I left this experience confused, but at the end of the day, I really did enjoy driving a race car. The driving feels great. It's super fun. I didn't have any graphical hitches or anything like that. Looks great on the Xbox Series S. And at the end of the day, if you wanted to just pick up a controller and drive, a simulation style racing, I had a lot of fun. I am confused as to who this is for, but for me as a complete novice, just jumping in a Honda Civic and driving around Laguna Seca is fun.
And would you play this again, like more? Like, are you going to go back and boot up some races?
No.
Yeah.
And I think Gunnar might touch on this of like, no, because I don't really understand
Why?
what to do or why. Yeah, exactly.
Gunnar.
I thought you said you had the Series X.
He does.
Yes,
do,
he does.
yeah.
You said Series S.
He let it go.
Oh,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, Series X.
My final thoughts. I think it's a fantastic starting point. I think, if this is like their games as a service thing, that's going to be the next game for like a while. I think it's a great place to start. Ted mentioned, and they mentioned this in all like the press, like they reworked all the physics and it shows. Everything drives great. You could drive on a controller, you could drive on a wheel. There is an option for the keyboard apparently. But it feels good. It feels like
Imagine.
racing.
I drove
and I
Cyberpunk with
really
the
like
keyboard.
that.
It was
Yeah,
scary.
I did too.
It was scary.
It was scary.
I think it still needs a long way to go, especially in the penalty system, which I think we forgot about, but is hilarious. And yeah, I think it's a great starting point. Can't wait to see where it goes. To Ted's point about the Series X, it actually runs like a turd on my computer. Which is, I have a pretty nice computer, I
Yeah.
would say. And it runs not great.
Wow.
Not as good as I would expect for the hardware that I have. So,
But console gaming's better.
I think I would have played it on a Series X, to be really honest.
The PC guy over here, guys.
Yeah, I am a PC guy, like tried and true, and that's pretty hard to say. But yeah, I'm looking forward to see where it goes. Will I keep playing it? I actually didn't buy it, so I had canceled Game Pass a while, and I know that Jake was gonna want to do this. I kind of wanted to do it too. I'm like, oh, the new Motorsport, so
Yeah.
I actually bought Game Pass instead. I was like, I'll try it for a couple months and see if I am still into it. And that's still very much like a, could go either way.
Mhm.
Like, do I want to
Yep.
keep playing this? Do I not? Because it really scratches that itch,
Yeah.
I think, for me and for a lot of people. But is it good enough? I don't know.
Makes sense.
And just, I guess, to pivot off of that, I don't know what I would keep playing in this game because, the live events are changing and I just don't play racing games enough to keep up with the progression requirements to play. At least, that's my first impression. Maybe that's different if you really get into the nitty gritty, but I don't really know how I'm going to keep playing this game. But I would like to.
James, any final questions about?
You know what? I'm never gonna play this game, but
Same.
it's interesting to hear about. And the only racing game I'm gonna be playing is probably the new Grand Theft Auto.
It's getting
Oh,
announced
the-
next month, apparently. Woohoo.
Yeah, Or if there's, you know what, Game Awards is gonna be there.
Big
Calling
Game
it.
So we're not gonna. We don't have a lot of time left, so we're not gonna review Spider-Man 2. But I want to talk about something.
Sorry
Okay.
for taking so much
No,
time.
I don't care. No,
No,
it's totally fine. It's totally fine. Guess what? Spider-Man 2 is exactly like Spider-Man 1. You play as 2 Spider-Man now, and you're fighting Venom. There it is. Boom! I reviewed it for you.
10 out of 10.
Great,
Game
love
of the
it.
year.
There it is.
There's a pigeon side quest that's very good.
No more pigeons,
can't go on
Ted.
the
No more
subway.
pigeons. No more pigeons.
I thought the pigeon guy was there.
No, he's gone. He's dead. He's dead.
He's
Can
dead.
you go on the subway, Jake?
I don't think you can. No, now you fast travel at any point. You just like click a place on the map and you bloop, bloop, you're just there and you're
Yeah,
swinging.
that's
You don't need a subway.
It's pretty cool. You can just swap Spider-Man and basically anytime. But Ted, here's my thing though. It's really for you, Ted.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. I think Venom
Mhm.
sucks. Like
Oh.
Venom looks cool as shit. Like Venom is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Man, is Venom just like, yeah, just always wants to spread his ooze, and that's what he
Yeah,
does
he's
in
just
this
trying to
game.
he's
like
just trying to
goop
consume. He's
guy.
just trying to
He's
eat.
just trying to ooze it around, and that's what he
Yeah.
does.
He's a goop guy.
He's a goopy
Yeah, I
man.
don't Venom's not that interesting.
No,
Like
And-
Venom and Peter Parker, well, I guess Spider-Man's initial meet is always interesting, and then
Yeah.
after that,
Yeah.
it's kind of whatever.
yeah, that's how I felt too. Like I started like getting it. Anyways, we're not gonna review this right now.
Yeah, I will take up this time by saying I did beat the first Spider-Man,
Oh,
2018's
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Person.
Very good,
That's pretty good.
very very good. Surprisingly more heartfelt than I thought it was going to be.
The ending is like particularly good.
Yeah, it was like, oh wow, this is something.
Yeah.
But so yeah, beat that. Highly recommend if you haven't played it.
Isn't it just like
And,
one of the best games to just like run around in? I think Spider-Man
Yes.
1 and 2 are like the best games. To
Yes,
just, like,
we've talked about this on air of solving the open world problem by just making traversal interesting.
yeah, like it's so fun
Um,
to swing
so-
around.
Yeah, looking forward to buying Miles Morales on the Christmas sale, and maybe one day playing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. The Game Awards announced their Game of the Year nominations, and I just wanted to kind of pick your brains about them. Because I'm kind of curious just what our initial gut reactions to the 6 games nominated for Game of the Year. Okay?
Mhm.
Game of the Year. Alan Wake 2, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate 3, Resident Evil 4, Marvel's Spider-Man 2.
3 games that came out less than 2 weeks before the announcement.
So true. But not shocking.
Wow.
Not shocking games that would be
Totally, yeah.
big budget
Yeah.
ones. Like the big
Yeah,
budget
before anyone
games.
has a chance to give them a bad review, they get nominated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big year, though. I mean,
Big
there's
year.
just way too many games.
been a good
and
year.
I think any other year you probably see like the games you expect up there. But I think it's
Starfield.
surprising to see 2 Nintendo games. I'd say. No Starfield is very surprising.
I think that's really surprising.
RE4 being up there, love it. Our Resident Evil needs to be up there. It's beautiful. Oop,
Oh, Puncher, back out really quick. We're still going.
hold on. Hunter.
Oh shit.
Give you a couple.
Protect your chats, ladies and gentlemen.
So I like Baldur's Gate 3 up there. We're gonna be playing after this. Jake said I need to play it solo. I told Jake he needs to play the Resident Evil 4 DLC. So right back at you.
I'll play the 2-hour
Yeah.
game. You play the 90-hour.
Yeah.
Gunnar, what are your reactions to these? Do you give a shit at all about the game?
I think you already know what I'm gonna say. I think it's got to be Baldur's Gate.
I think it's
3.
Baldur's Gate 3 as well, despite
I think it's Baldur's Gate 3.
I truly believe Tears of the Kingdom is like best gameplay game. They just made it the best
Yes.
adventure. Playing Baldur's Gate 3 recently, holy shit, is this one of the great games. The way the game reacts to you is like
It's also, I would argue, the only game that is unique on that list.
yes, I would agree.
I would say everything else there has a been there, done that vibe.
Yeah.
Everything's a
Some of these
sequel.
games, Spider-Man 2 is great. Tears of the Kingdom is definitely great, but like they are continuations of previous success. Mario Wonder might be different, but it came out like a week ago, so
And it's
I
not
don't know.
Mario moves from
Yeah.
side to side, gets different, and collects mushrooms.
You know what's interesting though?
different.
When I'm playing Baldur's Gate 3 and we're like discovering these new things, like, whoa, we did this, so you discovered this. it gives me Tears of the Kingdom vibes, where you just like happen upon this area, and then something happens, then you get a clue to something else. But Tears of the Kingdom's wrapped up in a single player experience.
And
Whereas
Baldur's
Gate
Gate
3, you get to share with.
You get to share with
your
people,
friends.
but also like the game, what you've done beforehand has now radically implicated what has happened. Where Tears of the
Right.
Kingdom, everything is
Oh
segmented.
well, yeah, you're right. You're right.
And like that's why with James, like with our playthrough, like basically the chaos killed everybody. Like now playing 25 more hours. Like I'm so curious to see now what we will encounter, knowing that we've basically murdered all the guys in the beginning. Like, what is going to happen to us?
We didn't murder them. We had them murdered.
We killed
No,
them.
Like,
we
we were
murdered
s-
them.
We slaughtered
were
them like
we
fucking
sent them to their
animals.
slaughter.
We caused a war,
We caused them.
which
murder.
caused them
No,
to
Gunnar,
die.
you literally went, I don't like the way she's looking at me. And James went, draw. And you drew your weapon and we all went into combat and slaughtered everybody in the village. That's exactly what happened.
Hey, she was being
She was
being
being
a bitch.
parents. All right.
You know.
Anyways, I'm very curious about these. I do think it's Baldur's.
Yeah.
Talk about games.
I think the nominations are pretty eye rolly.
They're just standard, but like, what else would you put
yeah.
up there? I think that's the other thing too.
Right.
I don't think there's many other games that you swap out.
Yeah.
Sense.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of more indie titles that I think could have had a shot. We discussed this a little bit off air, where like they probably had indie games, the best of the indie games, Baldur's Gate 3, go up in its own separate category.
Which is not
right?
nominated for best independent game. By the way, I just want you to know
Yeah.
that Baldur's Gate 3 is not.
Yeah, like
Independent
Baldur's
game.
Gate probably is taking like a token indie spot. But
That's-
I mean, it's pretty boilerplate, and I think as we will discuss after the Game Awards actually happens, there were a lot of games that they didn't bomb, but they also didn't like really resonate. Like Jedi Survivor just kind of happened.
Hogwarts.
Yeah, Hogwarts is kind of, again, a little bit of a nothing game that James will explain upon.
What are we?
So yeah,
We have a whole other podcast.
Because am I the only one who's beaten it, so I get to talk about
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
that's exactly it. Yep.
Thank you so much for watching the 151st episode of the Sidescape Gaming Podcast. My name is Jake. That's James. That's Ted. That's Gunnar. And we will see you actually in 2 weeks because Thanksgiving.
I won't be here next week.
Yeah.
And we're all out of here. But in the week after that, we're coming back and we're going to solve games as a service. The gang solves games as a service. We're going to figure it out.
Finally doing it.
Finally doing it. Done.
Yes.
That was my outro.